Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intune.training, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune, the Steve and Adam show. Steve and Adam.
Yay, I'm Steve.
Hey, Steve.
That's Adam.
Hey.
That's Adam.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try. I never get it right, ever. 6 years later, still getting it wrong.
Exactly.
Hey, Steve.
Not been 6 years.
But anyway, I got a great idea. We should talk about conditional access.
Really?
Uh-huh.
You sure?
I mean,
I thought you didn't like conditional access.
No. You misheard me. I don't like IT security teams.
Sorry, everybody out there that's in IT security. Adam does like
I'm not sorry at all. You guys make our lives difficult. You also keep us safe, but seriously, come on. Anyway, if you're watching this, first of all, sorry for the Intune administrators are going to have to go through this and listen and watch. But trust us, there are some good nuggets in here for Intune administrators. So don't just turn it off. If you say, oh, I'm not in security, I'm not in identity, I don't manage this, I don't run this. This is still for you. This is coming from a guy who doesn't get to play with conditional access on a daily. This isn't.
I don't either anymore.
It's a whole other team that manages this stuff. But have I been very much intimately involved with conditional access related things and troubleshooting and trying to triage
outages?
Yep, absolutely. So stick with us. We're going to take you on a wild ride. We're going to try to give you some background on how to get started with conditional access. So if you're a small shop, you've never done this stuff, this is super important. Definitely need to do it, but definitely need to be real careful. So we'll proceed with caution. We're going to give you some,
go through the cautions.
Yeah, we're going to give you some guardrails. So please pay attention through that part. Don't just go turn it on blindly and click it. We've done it. We've gotten locked out. It's been fun. So
just make sure you've got good contacts on your Intune portal, your M365 subscription, so you can actually prove to support who you are.
Yeah. Make sure that you can prove who you are, so you can get yourself unlocked out of your tenant. But we're going to talk about making a break glass account first, so that we don't get locked out. And then we're going to talk through all the different. There's some nice docs we're going to talk through with conditional access, and dive into doing some sample policies, looking at the templates that are available around them, and then look at how to do some troubleshooting by looking at sign-in logs and various things. Super important. Make sure that as you start with this, you're doing reporting only mode. Steve's going to get into all that kind of stuff. Just want to call all that out right in the beginning before you skip past a bunch of stuff.
They're probably skipping past this part anyway.
Yeah, hopefully not. This is that one thing that we're going to go through that can really hose. This can hose you big time. So, I mean, like, I remember the first time we were screwing around with this stuff, I clicked a thing and it was like, holy crap. I'm glad I had a browser still signed in and I was able to save myself.
I remember
everywhere else. It was brick. Oh no, this one's still good. So, all right, here we go, Steve. Light it up.
Let's go on the adventure. So, let me add this to the screen. What we have here, obviously, is our fancy, handy, dandy Intune training tenant. Starting off, let's start off with where you get access to the conditional access portal, and then we'll explain to what it is and why it's important for your environment. So the first place that you, as the IT admin that's doing Intune, will access it will be under the Endpoint Security tab, and in here you have the ability to get access to conditional access. This is the same as what you'll see if you go to the Entra page and go to conditional access. Previously, there was some inconsistencies between the two of them, but now they're consistent, which is awesome. So Intune, conditional access is pretty simple. It's the one that forces you to have a MFA prompt when accessing anything. It's how you enforce your MFA prompts.
By the way, you can also get to it under the devices node still. I wasn't sure if it moved. I was just double checking it. It was always been there, but then they've also added it under the endpoint security node.
There we go.
All right, carry on. Sorry.
Perfect. So it's also under devices as well. So it's everywhere, but it's consistent across all of it. So what we're looking at here is conditional access is about sitting there and saying, I'm going to say, to get access to my data, my resources, my applications, my endpoints, you must meet these conditions. So a good example is, well, we're going to enforce MFA for everything. So all users, excluding a set of group of users, and you'll see that we have a really handy dandy role here called directory synchronization accounts. Guess what that accounts for, Adam?
I'm not even going to guess. I'm going to look stupid guessing.
So that is the directory role that allows you to synchronize with Entra ID Connect, or previously called AAD Connect. This is to make it so you can't just stop synchronizing and forcing MFA on those accounts because, well, I can't MFA. I enforced MFA on everything, so I'm going to explicitly make it so my directory synchronization account doesn't need it.
And so the general rule here is on things that can't MFA, like scheduled backend services, scripts, accounts, etc., you kind of don't want to enforce MFA.
Yeah, because, well, it's an automation task. And here's the thing, right? We're not saying go and allow access to every application automation task in your platform that needs that. You should be addressing and assessing based on the reports and the results to go, well, do I actually need to have MFA on here? Because you know what? It's actually accessing something that's secure or sensitive. And if somebody was to compromise that account, I don't get access to it.
What's even more of the question, and we've not really dug in too much on the on-prem side of things throughout this reboot series.
Correct.
But the real question you ask yourself, if you've got a hybrid environment, does this account belong in the cloud? You should ask that question first, right? So 100%. if it's making it into the cloud, why? What are you accessing in the cloud that account needs access to? And then you need to question, so then does it need to be protected? Does it need MFA? Does it need some additional layers of security?
Yep, exactly. So in this demo example one that we have here, we've targeted all cloud apps. And you'll note as soon as you select all cloud apps, you get this really nice, hey, are you sure you really want to do that? Yeah. Yeah. Are you sure you really want to do that? Because it's going to make it so you don't have access to anything if you don't have an account that meets the conditions.
They mean it. I promise.
Oh, yes. They mean it. So what you're looking at here is you've got your access controls. So this is saying this is how you get access, and this is the assignments, what you're getting access to and who you're targeting.
So you've got the who, the what.
The who and the what at the top.
And the conditions.
Yes. And this is what you need to do. And as you can see, it's an interesting form, but we have the ability to say, well, you must have MFA. And realistically, the goal should be going to the this one here, the require authentication strength. Because if we go and change this, we can go and change this to passwordless MFA. And passwordless MFA is awesome because then I don't need to put in my password. I just put in a number of gets sent to the device.
I like this one. I'm going to send this one to my security team right after we're done with this because this is, I think that we need to do this for all of our IT admin accounts because Definitely. I regularly see, so we have people that have MFA enabled. They sign in, they go to sign into the Azure portal, and I watch them type their password in and then do the MFA prompt on their phone afterwards as their two-factor. And I'm like, That's seriously, right. Why aren't you just passwordless? What do you just click the button right below it that says use another method, and you can just flip it. But unless you force them, they're going to keep typing their credentials in.
Exactly. And then the last one is the phishing resistant MFA, which we don't have set up in our environment. So we're not enabling that right now. But we do recommend that if you do have FIDO keys and things like that. And this is the starting point because we're going to show you a little bit more around that require strong authentication in a minute because it's actually pretty cool. And what we're saying is it requires one of the selected. So what you can do is you can go, well, you know what? If you're on a compliant device or you satisfy the MFA requirement, you get access. So realistically, the goal should be, well, we want MFA to get access to our admin portals. And very clearly and concisely, this shouldn't be every time you're going to those, every time you sign into, say, Office or things like that, because that's a bad user experience. So we're just going to save this.
Hey, so just to clarify, Steve, the title of this policy is called multi-factor Microsoft Partners and Vendors, but that's not really what we're doing, right? Because you're doing all users.
Yes.
So the title of this isn't accurate.
Well, this is Microsoft Partners and Vendors because it's the sample one that was included with our tenant.
I recognize that, but you've already made some adjustments that make that the title not really accurate, and I just want to clarify that for sake of, we're going to actually get into naming standards later, but I just wanted to call that out before we get too far, because I didn't want people to skip over this because they're like, I don't have partners and vendors.
Yep. Whoa.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I'm not allowed to change that policy
because that's you used an out of the box one.
Yep, that's an out of the box one that we can't change. There's a yes.
Fair enough. Okay.
Sometimes you're going to get these policies, depending on when your tenant was born, will be in there that you won't be able to change. You can turn it on or off, but you can't modify the policy. So let's go and talk about authentication strengths, because we'll come back to policies in a second, but we touched on them very quickly. What you have is the ability to go in here and create your own authentication strength. And we're going to go Intune training. And what we can say is, well, we need to use a phishing resistant MFA. We're going to go Windows Hello for Business. Is that big enough font, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, for me it is. I think it's fine.
I can't zoom in, so it is. But what we can also set up is either passkey being a FIDO2 or a certificate-based authentication, which is cool. We can also then go and specify that we're going to allow Microsoft Authenticator phone app. That's pretty cool. That's the push, where we're saying put in the number and away you go. And then we get down to the basic multi-factor authentications, which is still strong, still important, where you can sit there and go, well, I want password and Microsoft Authenticator. But it's not moving to that passwordless model because for whatever reason you're wanting to go down that route. You can also do your federated. So if you've got external IDPs, you can handle that through here as well. And then you've also got that single factor of authentication, which is that certificate-based or SMS password or federated. The goal should be to avoid using the single factor authentication where as much as possible, but there could be scenarios in your organization where you need that. Make sense, Adam?
Yes, it does.
Perfect.
I mean, you're going to get into this, but the kind of back to my statement on, people using passwords when they should be using phone sign in. So an easy way to kind of audit that and say, hey, I'd like to do this, but I don't know what the impact is going to be on these accounts, would be to, and you're going to get back into the policies on this stuff, but would be to set it into report only mode and then go and review your reports, at which point it should tell you why it would or would not satisfy the conditional access policy. And then you can start tracking those users down and saying, hey, you know what? I noticed that you're not, you could figure out what your campaign needs to look like on, hey, yeah, we're good to go. Everybody's using passwordless, or no, we've got to talk to some folks and teach them and flip them over to another way. So
exactly.
So it's pretty cool.
Yep. So yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. While you're there, go back. So click on just MFA or any of them there. So just for reference, you can look and see these are if you were going to select this from the list, this is what you get. This is And so if you're like, well, I selected MFA, but it's not doing what I think it's doing, well, come here and make sure that you're trying to use a factor that they're expecting. Otherwise,
Exactly.
do what we did here and make a custom.
Yep. And like you'll note here, if we go multi-factor authentication, it's got the long list. It's got a lot in there. Whereas if we go phishing resistant MFA, we have the 3 options. And passwordless MFA gives us the ability to add the 3 primary options for phishing resistant MFA, plus the phone sign-in. So it's very important to understand that, why it's there, et cetera, because there's a lot of value in using and moving to these passwordless technologies.
And if you have your authenticator deployed with MAM policies, which we'll get into later, then you can make it so that if someone is using authenticator with an account signed in, then it's also got a MAM policy applied, and therefore it's going to protect. You can trust that that authenticator is also being protected and secure, and less prone to phishing or other things as well. So
exactly,
there's a whole. I mean, it's this web of things that all come together to create this very strong security model if you do it right.
Wow. I have not used this, but this is interesting. I think this might be to do with the secure global access.
Yeah, let's not go.
That's definitely secure global access or global secure access.
Yeah.
I
so
can definitely.
If you know about that, great. Please, leave some comments in the chat or something. But we've not done that yet, so let's not.
Yeah.
Let's not.
We haven't gone down to that rabbit hole. Exactly. So this is where you can set up VPN connectivity via conditional access to link those 2 together. So you can put conditional access as an authentication route in your VPN solution, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
We don't have VPNs, so we're not going to set that up. So question for you, Adam. When your users sign into their computer, do they get the banner going, hey, you're working for company X, and by using this, you're agreeing not to do blah and blah, 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 and then you've got to click OK?
As of Windows 11 and Intra only and Autopilot, no.
Yes.
Windows 10 devices, domain join, still yes. Servers, still yes. So there were some problems with it with Windows 11, and I want to say it was like the kiosk mode type stuff where you're trying to do a single sign-on. That stuff wouldn't work, and then things like Hello for Business created all sorts of complexity. And like, hey, I'm trying to use Hello, and I got to click this next. It was not a great user experience. And there was something else that was really a deal breaker, where it literally was like, we couldn't make the thing work the way we needed it to work successfully. So yes, we pulled the plug on that. And then we have since, I think we're maybe still testing the terms of use. We definitely had some issues where like we set conditional access on a thing. We had terms of use in place. I think I was trying to use like an Azure storage blob something. And it was like a very obscure thing. It was like, this just won't work anymore. It was a Azure storage account file share. And like, I'm hitting it and it won't work for me. But other people, it was working for them. I was in the test group for conditional or terms of use. And for whatever reason, it would not trigger terms of use for that case, or it wasn't seeing it or something. It was a mess. But anyway, we're past it and it's working, and it's a good deal.
Yeah, but in that scenario, that's a really good example of where you would go into the sign-in logs and the audit logs to see why it's not working.
Yeah.
And then put an exception in for that application or for that endpoint based on that scenario.
100%. That's exactly what we ended up doing. But I've also experienced this. So like through, I'm through the MVP program, we're connected to Microsoft's guest tenant, or to Microsoft's tenant as guest, and regularly, we sign in and we'll get the terms of use prompt before we can get to anything, and so we've got to accept that. But from like a legal perspective, from an acceptable use policy type thing, which is when we typically, would use this. So for our employees, we want to make sure that we're making the users acknowledge, and then we have documentation acknowledging that you're agreeing to these terms that you're never ever going to read, but that we can hold you accountable to later if you abuse our computers and do things you shouldn't do on them. We've got a record that says, hey, and the thing I love about this is that I know I'm rambling on, and you've hopefully seeing Steve fill out that it's just a form. He filled it out. Great. But the thing that is wonderful is that it gets tracked now. So you now have a history and a log per user. And so if you say, no, I've never gotten, no, you can't, I'm going to argue with the legal department and say, I've never, yeah, good luck with that. No. But we've got a record that says, no, you agreed to our terms of use. And now you're stuck with, just go type in, are you okay with using these computers or something like
no, you've got to put a PDF in there.
What? You have to upload a PDF?
Requires a PDF.
Ew.
Yeah. Which is why I was looking for a PDF.
Sorry, I forgot about that piece. Okay, neat. I've only set them up like once, playing around with them. Maybe they didn't even have a PDF. Oh, you know what it was? The tenant administration in Intune has a terms of use feature as well. And I want to say maybe that's where I was experimenting with it. And it was not this.
Don't use that.
Yeah. So I'm probably remembering setting that up previously.
Where would we find a good PDF?
Literally type in sample PDF or like type in, Lego instruction manual PDF. Yeah, this is fun. This is almost like that time where we edited our logo in Photoshop for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
In the video. Season 1, episode 1 or 2, whatever. I think it's 1. It's amazing. Good TV. All right. So all he's doing is filling out, following the forms, following the things. And as we go through this, like the same concepts are going to apply throughout. They have all of these knobs you can turn, all these things you can configure, and you need to be smart about you need to be very granular and very specific and prescriptive about who and how you apply and to what. Like, it does matter. And you're going to find an obscure thing where it's like, well, I got a service account, a service principal, it's doing a thing, whatever. And it's getting prompted for terms of use. What the heck? And it's like, you're going to run into those kinds of things. This is very much a trial and error thing. You are not going to nail this the first time, probably ever. You're always going to be having to go put it in report mode, check the logs, wait for complaints, work it out, back and forth, back and forth. Going to be a partner with your security team. It's part of the deal.
Make friends with them. Make friends with them. So here's where you can go in and use IP subnet ranges to say, well, you can only use it in certain areas of the world. I've seen some organizations use this in a positive way, but also in a very negative way. So I've seen organizations that have gone and blocked whole countries because they were getting hacked at one point, but have then never gone back and cleaned it up. So then they've had executives go and travel to that country and they're like, hey, we can't do anything. And they're like, oh, there's a policy here. We can't remove it. And it's like, but why was it added? We don't know.
Or you get flagged for impossible travel or risky user because of different things you've put in. So there's lots of fun things in here.
But also understand that, yes, IP addresses are good, but they can be spoofed.
You can do configure multi-factor authentication trusted IPs.
Yeah.
Neat.
So this is where you can say, well, you can set up MFA, but it has to be inside my corporate network.
Oh, so like the first time I set up MFA, I've got to be in the building.
Yes.
Neat.
which is fantastic until you go and put on, say, a cloud-based web proxy that randomizes your public IP address. But yes, you can do that. So you can sit here and go, well, yeah, you have to do it via this, blah, blah, blah.
Looks like a very modern page.
Yes, I would agree. All right. So we've now got our named location. We can sit there and say, well, we're doing Australia and US. We can get down to granular and put our public IP addresses in there if we wanted, but we're not going to because, well, we just don't need to. So we've gone through what you can manage and everything associated, because I think that that's a really good starting point. And if you're still with us, fantastic. So now we're going to jump across into actually creating those policies. So we have a couple of really cool ones here. Is we can go in and create new policy from template. Yeah. So this is new. This is something that has been added in the last 18 months, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that. It certainly didn't exist when we first set up conditional access policies.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
And this is fantastic.
Yep. It's because you can start sitting there and going, well, I'm just wanting a very simple, secure foundation. And you can download the policy. You can do it you can view it so you can see what's it actually doing. It goes and includes the roles, forces MFA on all roles. Cool. I think that's pretty important. Let's just turn that on.
Yeah. You can create it, and then you can
review, create.
Then
we're going to turn
it on. It defaults it to report only.
Yes, leave it as report only, because we're then wanting to go and change this because it's saying more multi-factor authentication. We don't want that though.
Yeah, even if you think this is the right, like, just start with report only for as a good, either off or report only as your first pass at this stuff every time. Just don't fall into that trap.
Yep. So we're going to go and force our strong authentication because we want strong authentication. And what we should see there, but it's not there for some reason.
Our new custom one?
Yeah, is our new custom one. So we should have the ability to see our custom one there, but for whatever reason, it hasn't synced through, but that's okay. We're not going to be too concerned. What we're saying is, what we're saying is explicitly applying to these directory roles where you must provide strong authentication, which will include, I'm assuming, no, it doesn't, but it does now, is the Intune administrator role. It's not there by default, but you'll note that the person who creates it is blocked or excluded by default. How good's that, Adam? They just don't want to apply the policy to me as my admin account.
That's nice.
So the reason for that is, well, yeah, do that whole trust but verify. Validate it. Don't lock yourself out straight away. Because if I turned around and said, turn this on, I would have ran the risk of locking myself out. Not really, but you get the point. So very important. So we're going to quickly save that. And we're forcing now strong authentication. And we have report only, and that's great.
Oh, no, Steve.
What, no?
Well, I'm over here frantically trying to enable strong authentication. And it says your administrator is disabled. You cannot set up passwordless phone sign-in because your IT administrator has disabled this feature for your account.
Yes! I broke Adam's account.
No, I probably killed it at some point because I got tired of this junk.
Probably. So we could go here. We could go through and set up a whole heap of different policies. But realistically, what you should look at is definitely look at the defaults, and we can, as I said, we can go through all of them and we can go, well, yeah, do this one, do that one. But primarily you want to make sure you have MFA for your admins, and then start moving to MFA for all users, because that's really important. But when it comes to shaping personas, configurations, etc., you can go down the rabbit hole and create a whole heap of manual stuff. we'll just go in here and do some very simple, tangible stuff of, all right, we're doing all cloud apps, but we're going to say conditions. So risky user must be low. Actually, we're going to say high, because if it's high, we're going to block. And this is where we can go here and we can just go block, done. So what this means is if that user is risky, and right now no users, because let's do the right thing, and we're going to go all. And you'll see that you now get this nice little message down the bottom. Hey, don't lock yourself out. Make sure you exclude current user. Yeah, that was added after a lot of people locked themselves out of tenants. So understand that it's there. It's there to safeguard you. But this is where you can start going through and doing some whole heap of really cool stuff to say, well, if you are coming in, well, if
that
you're coming
new
in,
feature in Edge, come on, guys.
Yep.
It's terrible.
If you're coming in from Mac OS, I'm just going to explicitly block you. Or if you're coming from Linux, because I don't have any Linux in my environment, I'm just going to block you. And realistically, I'm just going to block you if you come from Windows Phone, because it doesn't exist anymore, unless it's certain circumstances. But we can also go here and say, well, it needs to be from my list. And I have my Intune training work locations. And I hit save. And now I have the ability to sit there and go, well, yeah, cool. If you're coming from these two countries, it's not allowed. But if I can go here, I'm just going to set that. And I'm going to go exclude. And I go here. So what this policy now was saying is I'm going to block access to all applications, to all users, if their user risk is high, except if they're coming from the US or Australia, because I trust those countries.
Oh, and to be clear, that's only because that's where me and Steve are at. It's not a slight against other countries.
Exactly.
Just to be clear, this is an example. We're not.
Yes, that is exactly it. The other thing that you can do here is you can do filtering on devices. This is based on Entra ID fields.
You know what it's also not based on, Steve?
Intune.
No. Well, that too, but it is 100% not based on the same filters that you can use for intra dynamic group membership. The rules and everything, the formats,
correct.
The properties are all different, or largely different. You can't just be like, well, I already have an intra group for that. Let me just go copy and paste that over. No. Good luck. Try again.
No.
Once again, who knows how they come up with this stuff? Multiple teams not talking to each other, probably. Hey, so can you go back to the conditions? Where the MFA bit? Where does that at?
This one here.
Yeah, grant required. Did you scroll down?
Try it.
Well, that's strange. I just did it on a test.
It could be that I need to refresh.
I think so.
It could be that I need to refresh my page.
Yeah.
So
it does. It is in fact in that list where you were looking. I'm seeing it on mine. So.
So what I'll do is I'll quickly just show this little bit here, where you can go here and go context user actions, and you can actually sit there and go, well, you must have MFA to register or join a device to my tenant. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's the same with the register security information. So if you try and go and set up MFA on your device and you're not in my corporate network, it's not going to work. Cool. So let's close that back, click OK. Let's do a quick home and refresh.
And I've been doing, I did at least 1 or 2 sign-ins over here. So I signed out of my browser and back in. Maybe I've got some logs that might show that I didn't have MFA.
Conditional access. And we are
also, I'm looking in our authentication methods, and all of our policies for all the MFA things are disabled. So that explains why that's not working.
Yep. And we're getting bogged down on the area that we said we weren't going to, but that's okay. We're all good with that. So now I have that scroll.
Yay.
So I have the Intune training. So we're just going to quickly save that, and it's all good. All right. So what you'll have noticed in my browser is I've also had a docs page here, which I think is fantastic. And you should be definitely using this to help get to a mature level with conditional access. So this is about, this talks about how one of the architects in the ISD team has gone through and built out a solution. So this is a framework on how to use conditional access, where you start building out a persona-based scenario. And when we say persona-based scenario, you need to identify and understand what your staff are going to actually be using and needing to get access to on your cloud resources in general to start with, but just in general to do their job. So sitting there and going, well, you know what? All my users need access to Office. Well, okay, but I employ security officers that don't actually have a computer. So do they need to have access to Office for Windows? Or is that an attack vector? And start getting intelligent like that on, well, what do you need access to do your job? One of the things that is a big conversation in the conditional access space, and it's good, it's a great idea, but you need to be very intelligent, and you need to definitely audit and audit and audit and audit. Pardon me. There's this model that we're starting to get more to the point where customers are disabling access to all access or block everything, and then adding exclusions for what is required to do their business operations. So deny all and then allow, which realistically is actually...
Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah.
Not... Because it requires a lot more overhead to set it up.
Yeah, but
that's why a lot of customers haven't used it previously.
Well, so I mean, you're kind of touching on where I was thinking here on the and we're not getting into all of this, but the access packages and how that all plays into this. And so building out like, I mean, the Nirvana state here is being able to properly segment your organization in a way that you have a predictable set of roles, identities, things, or permissions that if you're an engineer, and at this facility doing this role, you get this access package. That goes to your manager and whoever else for approval. It's time bound, so it gets approvals and reviews, and you can build triggers and things on that. And then based on that group membership, then you have all these persona based conditional access policies defined, and you set it up one time and you build it out, and then you just tweak it over time as needed to adjust based on new things that become available. And instead of, oh, this new guy started, I got to go manually add him. Oh, I forgot to add him to that one group. Now he's not getting access to the thing, or the other way to really think about it is where you put them in the group, or you put them in a group that grants them more privilege, more access to a thing, but we don't have a control that's enforcing MFA. And so now you've got an attack vector where he didn't get put in the other group that made the MFA turn on, or you didn't think to configure MFA. And now you've got an opening that you don't even know that you have, and neither does the user because he doesn't care. And so you definitely have to sit down and architect this out to make it make sense.
Yeah, and to add to that, how many IT admins have had their permissions granted based on the outgoing IT admin or Joe in the corner that does the similar job? And you've got ridiculous level of access due to history. And it's like, but I don't need to still be an admin to the BlackBerry server because we turned that off 5 years ago. Why am I still in that group? Or that old MDM platform, it no longer exists. I need to go and clean that up.
Or I'm an Intune admin who has a scoped RBAC role to specific devices. But in order to let you do laps, I have to give you the laps administrator that isn't scoped to anything. And so now I have, so that's fun.
Yep. And this is where the scenarios that we've just spoken through have been IT admin focused, that realize and understand that you're going to need to have the same conversation and the same level of attention to detail for your general staff at the organization.
The more and more things you move to the cloud, the more and more this makes sense. It's no different than your AD security groups that you were already maintaining for privileging or you're permissioning out a specific website or whatever.
Yep.
You just do it differently and you have, but the implication is much larger because so as that website moves from an on-prem server to a web app of some sort, you potentially are going to want to use single sign-on and you're going to use your federated credentials or your internal intra credentials. You're going to have to make a choice. Is that website going to be available internal, external? Do I want my employees to be able to just go to that website, auth in properly, and use the website without having to have a company computer? Or do I want to require them to you got to be VPN'd and on the business network in order to get to the thing? But it opens up possibilities because now I have become more global because now I can make that portal available securely to my employees so that they can get to stuff. So, I mean, we're experiencing this today as we are moving our mobile platform from Citrix MDM management to Intune MDM. We have found that the Citrix has a secure web browser that's essentially a VPN browser all the time. And so we had users just using that on their personal phone regularly to do business. And now we've locked it down. We're saying, no, you can't do this. And they're calling saying, hey, I can't get to this internal website anymore. And we're using things like Azure App Proxy and other things to evaluate, case by case, what do we need to do to make this application securely available? Are we willing to make it available on a personal device through Edge with a MAM policy? Or are we going to say, no, that can only be available internally? So I'm kind of going down that path because these are regularly occurring new things that are hitting us. I mean, just every single day, there is something new in this space where understanding conditional access, understanding identity, access control, all these things is very much must be part of your job as an Intune administrator. You cannot avoid this. You cannot ignore this. You need to partner and understand this so that you can be a good advocate through your security team for what your customers need, what provides the best user experience for your customers, but also making sure that you're using the right tools to securely control the platform. And that's really what this is about. And we've just scratched the surface on this. I mean, there's whole people that this is their entire job doing this stuff. And we just are tangentially connected to it and we need to know it, but we don't, so there's a lot more to it is my point. And, please don't take this as the Bible for doing conditional access. A lot of people are gonna be like, you guys missed all we know.
The answer is yes. And it's quite intentional, right? This is part of starting the conversation of you need to take the time to understand how you're going to protect your crown jewels. So if we look at the early days of when conditional access was being implemented, what would happen is organizations would go and turn it on for Office, they'd turn it on for Outlook, they turn on OneDrive, but they wouldn't protect Visual Studio Online, or they wouldn't protect Remedy as their ticketing system, or they wouldn't protect this. And so, why not?
Yeah.
And now that conversation's changing to, we're not going to allow you to get access to our network unless you have this, or access to our corporate resources unless you have this. And then we'll make the exceptional requirements as needed.
So to kind of, I guess, I know we're trying to wrap up, but I'm gonna do what I do.
Sure.
Of course, why not? Let me find the right screen here. This guy, share. Okay, so as an example, like, so you threw out Remedy, made me think of I don't know how to use this new portal. I don't use this new portal.
Then just go to Intune and do it through there.
Well, I'm going to go to the Azure portal. Okay.
Spell
it. I'll get there. Okay. So within the Azure portal, you can create app registrations. And one of the things that you can do, and this needs to, so we partner with our software or our licensing team. So our purchasing / licensing procurement team. So when customers request new applications, regardless of what it is, a download, an install, a website, a subscription, it goes through a process, gets legal review, all these different things. So one of the things that we've really started kind of focusing on and partnering with that team on is checking to find out if there is a onboarding provisioning connector, or at least functionality. Do they support the functionality of being able to provision and onboard users? Specifically, one of the benefits there is you can then integrate your single sign-on with those providers. So as an example, let's go grab. Now there's a I'm going to come up with the acronym later, I'm sure. There's a name for this type of SCIM provisioning, SCIM.
Yep.
Is that the one?
Yep.
Okay. There, I got it. Yay. So if you search for the provider and SCIM, that should take you to their documentation that talks about how to set these things up to be able to do this. So, so one of the ideas here is, like, say for Adobe. So we get an Adobe sign in, and if you click on it, it will tell you, okay, it supports automatic provisioning. It's not supported. Okay, great. So they don't do SCIM provisioning. I found a lot of times this is not actually accurate, and you can still make it work. Generally, either the vendors or Microsoft, in a lot of cases, will have documentation that walks you through setting up SCIM, setting up your provisioning for this stuff to be able to enable single sign-on. But as an example, you would add this to your tenant. You can customize a name before you hit add if that's part of your needing to change the naming convention and stuff, or know how it got here, what you did. But what's great about this is then you can potentially set up a group. So you can go into provisioning and you can set up your groups here where I can say, okay, using the vendors provided stuff. And so, so they clearly don't support it. I should have read the note, but if it does support SCIM provisioning, it would have some extra stuff here when you get here. And you can target a group.
What we can do then, right? So if we go and search for the by app name or object, so for your Adobe one that we've just created. So now if we see that here, right? Fantastic. What we're going to do is we're going to go to open up another blade. And we're going to go to Intune. Cool. And what we're going to do is we're going to then go to conditional access under devices. Cool. We're going to collapse that across so we've got full visibility, because now we can create a new application. New policy. Don't mind me. And if we go and scroll up to the top, back to where we were, and we go target resources, and we go select, and we're going to select that one. Yep. And now if we search for our Adobe, it's there. Yeah. So this is where we've gone and registered that application into our tenant, and then we can go and put conditional access rules around that. So for example, if I'm going to say, well, I'm going to use Adobe Sign for authorizing all of my documents, but my staff internally, they have to do it when they're in the office.
I just realized my mistake. I read it as Adobe Sign-In. I thought this, it was, okay. That's why it wasn't, okay. Yeah. All right. Carry on. Sorry.
Yes.
Keep going. I was so close.
Yes, you were. But there, this is where you can then put conditions around there and go, well, if you're going to sign in with the corporate account to have to sign a legally binding document as your corporate account, you must be on a managed device in a set office and with a strong password authentication to be able to do anything on there.
Yeah. And then you connect this to them via single sign-on. You enable single sign-on, or use whatever follow their instructions. They'll have ways and you can connect this to them. And then that way, now that does enable you to use to use conditional access. So yeah, thanks for pulling that back together. That's where I was headed. So
I know.
It's taking me longer, but I was getting there. I was getting it. I know. So the other thing before we close out that I wanted to look at real fast is let's go back into the let's go to sign-in logs. So
yes,
you can get to sign-in logs. So a lot of times I'll do sign-in logs this way, and then I'll say, oh, dang, I got to go filter and sort. But if you're specifically working on a specific user, I like going this route because you can go grab the user explicitly, and then you can drill into that person. And so it's going to automatically apply the user filter here. And so let me zoom out just a smidge to see if that helps. I don't know what I just, what happened.
Everything.
Yeah, touched it and it lost it. Okay, so so you have interactive and non-interactive. New sign-ins preview. Did I?
Yeah, turned on. We always like preview stuff.
I thought I had it turned on.
I think when you
I must have
zoom it,
accidentally. Yeah, okay, great.
Anyway, so the thing to know is the conditional access is success not applied. That's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, but so this is what I was going to look at here is that when you turn on your conditional access, so we've got one conditional access here that is required, right? And so we can click on that guy and it will show us, well, why did that work? What did I do that made all of the pieces that we configured apply? So what did I satisfy? I apparently had multi-factor of some sort. And so that satisfied the requirement. But then if I go back over here to report only, it's going to say report only, but user action is required. So in this case, it says, oh, no, hey. So if we had turned this policy on, I would have lost, I would have just lost access. I would not have been able to do what I was attempting to do because into the required authentication strength is Intune training. The user could not satisfy this strength. And so I wouldn't have gotten in. So that's kind of how you put it all together. So from an Intune admin perspective, as you're troubleshooting, you should have access. If you don't have access to these, go make sure you get access to sign-in logs, because this is an incredible troubleshooting tool for so many different things. I mean, even troubleshooting sign-in issues within Windows itself.
So what I add to that is the user sign-ins non-interactive is super, super, super important.
Yes.
Because conditional access does apply at that point.
It does. And if you have a conditional access that says require MFA and you're looking at your non-interactives and you say, oh, well, that's strange, man, look at this. This non-interactive sign-in would have failed because I didn't meet the authentication requirements. So
because you don't have Hello for Business.
Yeah. Which
you probably do, but yeah.
Yeah. Actually, not on this device. This is my demo device, so it's not tenant joined at all.
That would do it.
I'm signed in the browser, but that's it. So so anyway, hopefully this makes sense. Like this is really where it comes together, where you can come in and fill and check all this stuff out, figure out what's going on, and let me see if I can zoom out a little bit so you can see this a little bit better. So authentication requirement, multi-factor, single factor.
Yep.
So you can build out all these different filters to get down granularly to the right thing and figure out what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other cases where we've seen this a lot is during autopilot. There are things and there's documentation that talks about what to exclude from conditional access. So as you're looking through docs, working through different areas, check out the docs to see what are the recommendations for conditional access for this thing that you're working on as well.
Definitely.
So anyway, this could go on and on and on. This is meant to be an intro to conditional access, get you thinking, get the juices flowing. If you've got specific questions, comments, concerns, I'd love to hear from you. Hit us up on Twitter or talk to us in the chat, the comment section. We have folks that answer things in the comment section. Sometimes we do. We try.
Exactly.
We're not the best about it, but we do have a lot. Thank you if you are one of those folks that responds in the comment section. Thank you for doing that.
Very much appreciate it.
We do appreciate it. But hopefully this gets you started. If you'd like to see more in this space, we're probably not the right resource, but at least ask. We'll try. There are some really, really strong folks in this area that blog about it, that do YouTube, that are on Twitter or X. I'm going to call it Twitter forever. It's just, same deal.
It's formerly known as.
So, but definitely, this is a tool for your tool bag here, and it's worth digging into a little bit.
Exactly.
Necessary evil. Might as well become friends with it.
Exactly. Like anything around authentication.
And then stay tuned if you're still around. If you stay tuned for next, we're going to build on this. So we talked about MAM a little bit. We really are going to hopefully focus on that in some future videos on looking at how we can do device registration using conditional access and allowing and preventing MAM. How we can allow corporate distinguish between managed and unmanaged devices and different MAM policies and things. So anyway, stick around. It's coming. Also, sorry it's taking us so long. Just life is hectic and busy, and it is what it is. So hopefully you're enjoying these and their quality.
Yes.
And this is the best we can do because we are dying. There's a lot going on. So appreciate the feedback you guys are giving us. It keeps us moving, keeps us going.
Definitely.
So thanks for sticking with us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Steve. See ya.
Thanks, Adam. Bye.